Live, this is 8 News Now at 11.
President George H.W. Bush has died tonight. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Brian Loftus.
And I'm Sasha Loftus in for Denise. The 41st president was 94 years old. His death comes just 8 months after the passing of his wife and First Lady Barbara Bush.
And tonight we hear from those close to the president about what it was like to work with him in the office. But first we start with CBS News correspondent Chris Martinez for more on his life and legacy.
I, George Herbert Walker Bush, do solemnly swear.
When George Herbert Walker Bush took the oath of office in 1989, he already had an impressive legacy. World War II hero, Texas oilman, director of the CIA, and vice president. Politics would dominate his life. Bush was born in 1924 in Milton, Massachusetts. On his 18th birthday, he enlisted in the Navy, becoming the youngest fighter pilot in World War II. During an air raid in the Pacific, he was shot down, a rescue famously captured on film.
I knew that if something didn't pick me up, I would be captured.
Shortly after returning from the war, he married Barbara Pierce. They would have 6 children and 17 grandchildren.
I think he's the wisest, smartest, most decent, caring person I know.
Bush studied at Yale University. He graduated Phi Beta Kappa in just 2.5 years, but he left New England to make it on his own. He carved out his fortune in the wildcat oil fields of Texas.
What a day!
In the 60s, Bush turned to politics. He was elected to Congress in 1966 and became a power player in the Republican Party.
Leaving the door open.
In 1980, he ran unsuccessfully against Ronald Reagan for the GOP nomination, then agreed to be Reagan's running mate. He was Reagan's vice president for 8 years before becoming the 41st president of the United States.
I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
During his one term in the White House, Bush played a key role in the reunification of Germany. He also took on Saddam Hussein for invading Kuwait, launching Operation Desert Storm, the first Gulf War.
A new world order can emerge, a new era.
Bush formed a coalition of 30 nations to liberate Kuwait in just 6 weeks, but he was criticized for not removing Iraq's defiant leader. After the war, the economy slowed down.
Read my lips. No new taxes.
Bush was forced to break that campaign promise and raised taxes. As the economy continued to sink, so did his approval ratings. And in 1992, he lost the election to Bill Clinton. In later years, the former rivals raised millions for victims of the tsunami in Southeast Asia and Hurricane Katrina. Bush remained active during retirement. He saw his oldest son become president, and another son, Jeb, served 2 terms as Florida's governor. He even went skydiving to celebrate his 80th, 85th, and 90th birthdays.
Can't play golf anymore, but I still can jump out of a plane.
But in his final years, Bush's health deteriorated, and he developed a form of Parkinson's that made it difficult to walk. He used a wheelchair during a 2011 visit to the White House when President Obama awarded him with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. In 2018, Bush was at his wife's side holding her hand when she passed at their Houston home. He called her the most beloved woman in the world, his devotion to her to the end, never failing. Chris Martinez, CBS News.
Sig Rogich, a close friend of the president and his chief media advisor in the Bush 41 White House, was kind enough to speak with us tonight. He told me about the importance of family to the president and what he'll miss most about the man.
Well, it was the core of his soul, really. You know, he and Barbara were not just in love with each other, they were best friends. They palled around together, they kidded each other, they, had their little jibes, but I never saw him get angry, really. And I spent a lot of time with the two of them, over the years. I just think he understood that friends and family and loyalty are the essence of the heart and soul of what you should be about. And you combine, then you get the ancillary components that come with it, the religious thread that was part of his life, the integrity component, which was essential to everything he believed in, and the sense of loyalty to friends and family that really was the core of his existence. And so those of us who were privileged to be part of that, saw it, and we tried to emulate it. And we never lost sight of the fact that those were the things that were most important to him as President of the United States. I think I probably miss his sense of humor and, just the fun camaraderie we had. And we had it through our lives together. I've known him now since 83, I think, or something, 82 maybe. And I just never lost sight of our friendship. We emailed each other hundreds, maybe thousands of times with jokes, and we laughed. And whenever there was an opportunity to get together, we got together. And a year or so ago, or however long it was, I called him and said, I'm going to be in Houston, and let's have lunch. And so we had lunch, he and I and Barbara. And then just a month later, Barbara died. And then just last week, or maybe 10 days ago, I wrote a little joke, which we have been doing forever. And he has this goofy committee, this so-called committee that rates jokes, and he gave it a 4.
4 out of 10.
I wrote him back and said, well, obviously you don't understand sophisticated humor. Anyway.
President Trump released this statement tonight, saying in part, with sound judgment, common sense, and unflappable leadership, President Bush guided our nation and the world to a peaceful and victorious conclusion of the Cold War. As president, he set the stage for the decades of prosperity that have followed, and through all that he accomplished, he remained humble, following the quiet call to service that gave him a clear sense of direction. And our coverage of President H.W. Bush continues overnight and through the weekend. You can find all of the latest content on LasVegasNow.com and here on 8 News Now, both on Saturday and Sunday evenings. Ted.